India has suspended 65-year-old Indus Water Treaty. Now, in response to a very gruesome, horrible terror attack perpetrated by Pakistan's ISI on India's Pahalgam region of Kashmir, where more than 24 people, 24 tourists, civilians lost their lives. In response to this particular attack, India has announced that it would be suspending Indus Water Treaty with immediate effect.
The Indian Indus Water Treaty suspended the Indus Waters Treaty with Pakistan for the first time.
This suspension will remain until Pakistan stops sponsoring terrorism.
A treaty that has survived 4 wars, decades of cross-border terrorism against India by Pakistan, now faces suspension for the first time.
Now, all the details about the Pahalgam terror attack we have covered in a separate video. You can watch that to understand all the details. Now, coming to the Indus Water Treaty. We'll be trying to understand what this Indus Water Treaty is all about, what are the ramifications of India suspending the treaty unilaterally, and what will happen in future in relation to the water sharing of Indus River amongst India and Pakistan, and what it means for the global geopolitics and India-Pakistan bilateral relations, and is it going to impact Pakistan in any way or matter? All these things we are going to discuss in this particular session. Hello, my name is Petal Singh and you're watching Perspective. Now let's first understand what is this Indus Water Treaty. See, in 1947, based on the two nations theory, India and Pakistan got divided. And the boundary line between India and Pakistan, as you all know, was not very well demarcated. So it was basically like a piece of territory was taken and a scale was measured. Through that scale, a line was drawn and that became the boundary between India and Pakistan. That was actually what happened. And several villages came in between, several houses even came in between. That front of the house is in Pakistan, backyard of the house is in India. Several instances of such cases have taken place. Now, on the basis of this division, water between India and Pakistan also got divided. And the Indus River system, which is a very predominant river system of the Himalayas, that also got divided between India and Pakistan. Initially, there was an inter-dominion accord between India and Pakistan of 1948. So this inter-dominion accord actually said that India would be supplying water to Pakistan on the basis of some yearly payment. But because Pakistan and India had some confrontation and some disagreements on the basis of interpretation of this particular treaty, because of that, this treaty got halted. And this agreement actually failed. Now in 1951, both the countries went to World Bank for funding of several irrigation projects, because World Bank, as you know, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, it used to give funds to developing countries who just got independent for reconstruction and development of its regions. And construction of dams and irrigation project was very important for both the countries because agriculture was at the forefront. Because of that, they went to World Bank, and World Bank in turn tried to broker a deal between India and Pakistan where Indus water would be shared amongst them in a very equitable way. And it was then when the World Bank offered to mediate between India and Pakistan for this Indus Water Treaty. And by the year 1960, all these agreements were finalized, and former Indian Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru and the then President of Pakistan, President Ayub Khan, they brokered the deal and they signed the deal which we call as Indus Water Treaty, which was brokered by the World Bank, and which is why Vice President of World Bank, W.A.B. Iliffe, also signed that Indus Water Treaty. And from then on, Indus Water System, Indus River System, was shared between India and Pakistan on the agreement basis. Now, what that sharing was, I'm going to discuss on that as well. But first, you need to understand about Indus River System. So, Indus River System is a Himalayan river system, which is a trans-boundary river system where 47% of the river system flows through Pakistan, 39% flows through India, and 8% in Tibet, and 6% in Afghanistan. And it is the longest river in Pakistan, this we have to understand. And this trans-Himalayan river, it originates from Bokharshu Glacier on the northern slopes of Mount Kailash, which is a very integral geographical location. And the river empties in Arabian Sea, which is south of Karachi, after forming a very huge delta. Now, in order to understand Indus Basin, you have to understand its topography and geography. So it is surrounded by Himalayas in the east, Karakoram and Harmosh ranges in the north, Suleiman and Kirthar ranges to the west, and Arabian Sea to the south. This is the whole geographical placement of Indus Basin. And in India, Indus Basin is spread over 6 geographical locations. One is Jammu and Kashmir, then Himachal Pradesh, then Punjab, Chandigarh, Rajasthan and Haryana. In all these regions, we can see placement of Indus Basin. Now, the most important thing is in relation to the tributaries of Indus River, because in the agreement, there is a division of these tributaries only. that Pakistan would be given two to three tributaries and India would be given 3 tributaries of the Indus River system. And then the water would be divided amongst the two countries. So there are 5 major tributaries of Indus River system. One is Jhelum, one is Chenab, one is Ravi, one is Beas, and one is Satluj. These 5 tributaries, major tributaries, forms the Indus River system in India and Pakistan. Now this Indus Water Treaty, it prescribed that 3 rivers would be given to Pakistan and 3 rivers would be given to India. So 3 rivers waters of Indus, Jhelum and Chenab would be given to Pakistan. And these western tributaries or western rivers would be allocated to Pakistan for unrestricted uses. But definitely India can also have some consumption uses, like for agriculture purposes or domestic uses, that can be there. But it would be available, these 3 rivers would be available for unrestricted use by Pakistan. And the other 3, that is Ravi, Beas, Satluj, the eastern tributaries would be given to India for again unrestricted uses. And this particular treaty meant that 80% of the water, it goes to Pakistan, while 20% of the water goes to India. Because if we see the topography of India, India is having different other river systems as well. But Pakistan is not having much, which is why in this treaty, the agreement was brokered that 80% would be taken by Pakistan, 20% would be taken by India. Now, by now, we very clearly understand that Indus River, Jhelum and Chenab, they are clearly available for Pakistan for unrestricted uses under the Indus Water Treaty. Now this means that in this Indus Water Treaty, under Annexure C, Indus Water Treaty allows India for certain agricultural uses and domestic uses of these 3 rivers, that is Indus, Jhelum and Chenab. Alongside this, Annexure D, it allows India to make some run of the river hydropower projects in the region as well. So in these rivers, India can make run of the river hydropower projects, which means that the water can't be stored by India in any of these hydropower projects, but it can be run of the river hydropower projects where India can generate hydroelectricity. That permission has been given to India under this particular treaty. And also these hydroelectricity power projects, these hydroelectric power projects needs to be having certain specific designs, which are of course mentioned in the agreement as well. And those signs India has to share with Pakistan. Those designs India has to share with Pakistan as well. Pakistan can raise objections against those designs in a span of 3 months after receiving those designs. All these agreements or nuances are there as the part of the agreement as well. India can store some part as well for flood regulation or for conservation or different other purposes for protection of the terrain of Indian territory. For that, India is having the permission to store certain water levels as well. Now, the most important part of this Indus Water Treaty is the setting up of a permanent Indus Water Commission. So permanent Indus Commission will be established, which will be a permanent commission of representatives of both the countries, and it will be solving the disputes between the countries and will be the first step towards dispute resolution between both the countries vis-a-vis Indus Water Treaty or Indus Water Agreement is concerned. And it is mandated that this Indus Water Commission should meet at least once a year. Now, this is the first step solution for dispute resolution. But if you see the entire Indus Water Agreement, there is a 3-step solution. There are 3 tier arrangements which are made under the Indus Water Agreement for a dispute resolution. First is if both the parties are disagreeing on something, they'll try to amicably resolve it through Indus Water Commission. So that is the first step of dispute resolution. But still, if the problem persists and they are not able to solve the issue in hand, then the issue will go to a neutral expert, which means a neutral expert will be appointed by World Bank, and World Bank would be intervening in the dispute if the Indus Water Commission is not able to resolve the dispute. So after the first step, if the dispute remains unresolved, any of the side can go to the World Bank. World Bank will appoint a neutral expert. That neutral expert will try to come to a decision as to which side is right, which side is wrong. And still, if any of the parties doesn't agree with the decision made by the neutral expert, and third choice is that the matter to be referred to the Court of Arbitration. There is a provision of Court of Arbitration as a 3-tier mechanism, third tier in the dispute resolution mechanism under the Indus Water Treaty. So let me recall this resolution mechanism again for you. First, it will be resolved on bilateral basis in Indus Water Commission. But if any of the parties is still not happy, they can go to the World Bank. World Bank will appoint a neutral expert. So second dispute resolution can happen at the neutral expert level, which is upwards of the Indus Water Commission. If they don't agree with the neutral expert as well, then the matter will be going to the court of arbitration, and then the court of arbitration will give the final verdict. This is the three-tier mechanism of dispute resolution under the Indus Water Treaty. Okay, one more important thing to note here is that since the last 10 years as well, one decade, India and Pakistan have been having issues in relation to Indus water sharing, which is why Pakistan went to a neutral expert, went to the World Bank and asked for a neutral expert. India agreed for a neutral expert in 2015. Now, when India agreed for a neutral expert, Pakistan, bypassing the neutral expert, again went to the World Bank for establishment of court of arbitration and making the case go to the court of arbitration. Now, India strongly rejected it. India said that while on one side, neutral expert is making a decision, neutral expert investigation is going on, how can you again go back and go for court of arbitration? That is actually not in the provisions of the treaty, which is why India alleges that Pakistan has violated the dispute resolution mechanism of the Indus Water Treaty, and which is why India has been abstaining from participating in the proceedings of court of arbitration, because India is not agreeing to it, because India says that already neutral expert is investigating and neutral expert's decision is still pending. Which is why this court of arbitration, it is actually illegal, it's actually not a part of the treaty. Now, if we talk about Indus Water Treaty in a geopolitical and diplomatic way, definitely diplomatically this was a success for India, because India was able to broker a deal with Pakistan in sharing of river, which is a very important integral part in any of the bilateral relations between any of the countries. But yes, this bilateral success was not without any concerns or not without any qualms. Definitely there were disputes, definitely there were apprehensions from both of the sides, but still this Indus Water Treaty served well for both the countries. Also, it showed India's concession as well. While India gave 80% of the water to Pakistan and 20% it kept for itself, it shows India's concessionary attitude towards Pakistan, and eventually it has helped a lot in maintaining regional stability as well, because Indus Water Commission, it gives a permanent source of dialogue between India and Pakistan, even when the tensions are heightened, because Indus Water Commission has to meet once a year. So it has established one dialogue channel, diplomatic dialogue channel between both the countries, even if it's for the water. But yet, still one dialogue has been established on the basis of this particular treaty. And as I told you that as a part of annexure of the Indus Water Treaty, India is allowed to make hydroelectric power projects in the rivers of Jhelum and Chenab, which is why India has done so. India is having a Kishan Ganga project on Jhelum, India is having a Ratle project on Chenab, and Pakistan is having apprehension on both, because Pakistan is alleging that they are storing water, which we are not. It's a run-off hydroelectric project. And there are several other objections raised by Pakistan as well, whether it be in the case of Salal Dam project, whether it be in case of Pakal Dul project, whether it be in case of Lower Kalnai project or Kiru project, any of the projects of India in Jhelum and Chenab, on a local basis as well, on local parts as well, local regions as well, Pakistan is having an issue for that. And which is why Pakistan has been time and again going to the World Bank for neutral expert, time and again going for court of arbitration, but of no use. See, one thing which we need to understand here is that on the basis of water flow, Pakistan is a lower riparian country. India is an upper riparian country, which means the upper stretches of the water flow is controlled by India, which means if India is an upper riparian country, India would prefer resource optimization, India would prefer development, India would prefer creation of hydroelectricity, creation of dams and all those other things. Pakistan is a lower riparian country, lower riparian region, would definitely prefer a uninterrupted water flow. But now, because we have suspended Indus Water Treaty, we can restrict that flow to Pakistan. And we can give that flow whenever we want, or we can restrict that flow whenever we want.
Now, India has opened gates of the Salal Dam and Baglehar Dam built on Chenab River in Jammu and Kashmir.
Which means the water is solely now under our control, because we are the upper riparian country. Which is why coming to that question, that how it will impact Pakistan, suspension of this treaty, how it will impact Pakistan. Suspension of Indus Water Treaty is going to definitely have a negative impact on Pakistan, because Pakistan would be having any control over the waters now. India, being the upper riparian country, would have control of the water, that whenever they want to give the water to Pakistan, they'll give. Whenever there is excess water, India is not able to control that much amount of water, they'll open the flow of water to Pakistan. But when India wants water more, India can take the water for its own course. Which is why now it will be India's predominance in Indus water, Indus river system, not Pakistan. Which is why Pakistan is going to hugely suffer, because already Pakistan is a country where agriculture prices are soaring, farmers are not having good wages, farmers are not earning well, agriculture of that country is devastated, inflation is skyrocketing, wheat is available for 600 rupees per kg. All those, prices are very high in Pakistan, inflation is very high, condition of the common people is very, very poor. And in such a condition, if India is suspending the Indus Water Treaty, it is going to have a very definite negative impact on all these people, all this region of Pakistan. And it will put pressure on the Pakistani establishment to not perpetrate any such terror incident in India from now on. Which is why definitely this is a laudable move where we should be supporting our government. Now, whatever the future holds for this Indus Water Treaty, we do not know. It depends on the bilateral relations between India and Pakistan, which is not going to be very good in the coming future because of the terror incidents which has been taken place in our country, in our soil, due to Pakistan's ISI and Pakistan perpetrated terror in our country, Pakistan's proxy war in our country. Definitely the relations are going to be sour. Because of that, Indus Water Treaty again is in, I would say, abeyance. And Indus Water Treaty is in a grey light. We have suspended Indus Water Treaty. Now we will unilaterally decide what we want to do with the water of Indus River system. We will use it for our development, of course, and we will give the flow of the water to Pakistan whenever there is excess in our country. Only then we will give the flow. Otherwise, we will restrict the flow. So I hope you gained some new perspective from this particular session. Indus Water Treaty is going to have a definite impact on the geopolitical tensions, and it is going to put a very huge pressure on Pakistan to stop perpetrating these type of terror attacks. What are your views surrounding this particular issue? Please let me know in the comment section. I'll be happy to read them. All the very best. Have a beautiful day.